Good morning, everyone. So, I would like to welcome Dr. P. David Jawahar, who is the Director in Charge and Professor at XIME Chennai. He has over 25 years of experience in research, academics, and academic administration. He is the proud recipient of the Devang Mehta National Award for the Best HR Teacher in 2009. He has served in senior positions in prestigious institutions like NIT Trichy, Bharatidasan Institute of Management, and University of Madras. He has also served as a registrar of University of Madras and has traveled widely to several countries in the East and West, and is also a certified trainer in transactional analysis. His area of expertise is human resource management and organizational behavior. Welcome, sir. So the complete profile will be shared through the common WhatsApp group. So I would now like to hand this over to Dr. David Jawahar to begin with the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Subhashri. Thank you very much. Thank you for that introduction.
Thank you.
Good morning to all of you. At the outset, I'd like to thank Professor Tamarai Chelvan and his team for having given me this opportunity to interact with all of you in this very prestigious program. It also gives me fond memories of NIT, where I served for almost 8 years. So this is a great opportunity for me to come back and be a part of what NIT has done. And today's topic is goal setting. And before I share my slides, I thought, I would just give you an introduction, a small brief intro on why should we have goal setting as one of the very primary subjects at the beginning of this training program. There are things that we think that we know. And because we think that we know, we never test it. And that which is not tested can never be proved right. And that is the reason why I think the organizers have decided that goal setting must be a program that must be one of the primary programs to start with. And that is why I also did a little bit of reading on this subject. Although I would have loved to do this as an experiential exercise, because of distance and technological challenges, we would have to go to the rather, regular pattern of sharing slides with you. But what I have planned for you is, after my lecture, which I hope to conclude within 1 hour's time, there is a small exercise on goal setting that I would like you to take all of you through. And those who are willing to take that particular exercise would greatly benefit from it, because it connects the theory that we are going to talk with the life that you lead as academic heads or as academicians in the various institutions to which you belong. So I hope you enjoy this, and should you feel that that I should stop somewhere, you can always point it out to me. So I'm going to start off with my my slides presentation right now. So there we are. So what the topic that's been given to me, and I find it a great challenge, is that goal setting for leadership. I hope I will be able to do justice to this topic that's been given to me. Personally, I feel that it is a must for every single participant that is gathered here. It's quite unfortunate that I cannot see many of you. And already the introductions have been made about who I am and how I'm qualified to handle this session. And here goes. Right. Let me start off with some basic things like, what are goals? Now, because we are in the subject matter of goal setting, but if we are not sure about goals, then our whole goal setting process also comes to a zero. So therefore, we should start off with the primary preliminary understanding of what are goals. Now, it is very interesting because as the slides proceed, you will understand that many of the things that we had assumed are no longer right. Nusrat, is there something that you want to tell us? Nusrat Khan?
No, sir. No, sir. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. A goal, a goal is an idea of the future or a desired result that a person or a group of persons or people envision, plan, and commit to achieve. I want to spend a minute on this. You know, we always think of a goal as a target, something between an individual and the target. The entire connection and the entire picture is drawn up of a goal as something that a person wants to achieve by himself or herself. Now, that is why I thought that this definition is very misleading, and we should have a definition that is far more inclusive in nature. And the new definition is that it's an idea of the future. This is something that we are unable to see today. It is something that is in the future. And because it is in the future, there are a number of uncertainties which are involved in it. No matter how well intentioned we are, no matter how intense we are, the achievement of the particular goal is not always certain because it is in the future. Now, because it is in the future and because it is out of reach at the moment, we envision, we draw up a picture of what it is, and then we plan on how do we march towards it. And then we make certain resources, including our time, available by the commitments that we make. So therefore, this small picture of an archer trying to, shoot an arrow at a target must be first taken away from the mind. Goals are far more complex. It is not about the archer pulling back his bow and sending an arrow that will hit the bullseye. Now, this fundamental mistake is one of the reasons why many a times that we set goals for ourselves and we don't reach it. I'm sure all of us would have made New Year resolutions. We'll become slimmer this year. We'll do more exercises this year. We shall stop smoking this year, or we shall read more. And yet all the New Year resolutions last only about what? 15 days, a month, if we are very lucky. And there are umpteen number of goals on financial regularities that we wanted to bring into our lives. These have all failed because we are still caught up with the archer's image in our mind. I want to shoot an arrow and that arrow should hit the bullseye. Let me take you a little further on this. Now, don't confuse a goal with a dream. Don't confuse it with a vision. Don't confuse it with an expectation or a desire or an objective. Now, if you look at all of the words that I've used here, they're very often used almost as a substitute for the word goal. But each of them has a separate meaning. And it doesn't stop with just the meaning, because they are separate entities, they are separate concepts, and they're very different from what is a goal. A goal is very, very distinct and very, very different from a dream. A dream can be vague. A vision is something that only you can see. An expectation, again, is only a deep desire in your heart, or an objective that only you know about, or between you and the objective are several factors that will ensure that you don't always reach the goal. Now, this is exactly the reason most goal achievements fail, because they believe a goal is equivalent of a dream or a vision or expectation, desire or objective, or any number of other words which are similar or sound similar or stand close in meaning to this. That dream, vision, expectation, desire or objective clearly mean what is goal. The truth is that a goal is something entirely different from the meaning of what any of these words talk about. Now, that is the reason why many researchers point out that most goal achievements fail because of this confusion. Now, you see, every new year, the beginning of a new year, we make a set of resolutions. So many resolutions. I shall exercise more. I shall read more. I will not eat this much. Or I will eat healthy food. Or I will stop smoking. And a whole lot of these things. Yet, what is wrong with these? These are all good intentions. We want the best for ourselves and our families and for the organizations that we serve in. Yet we fail. One of the primary reasons why all this goal setting fails is because we confuse it with our dreams or vision or expectation or a desire or objective. They are not one and the same. To give you some more, understanding of what I'm talking about, we find this amazing statistics come through. In a large survey that was conducted, they found a shocking statistics that only 8% of the people actually get to achieve their goals. Now, what that particular statistics also tells us is that 92% of the people fail. That's an amazingly large number of people who fail to get to achieve their goals. Now, we could naturally conclude what 92% of the people can't do. What are we going to do? Let us also give up. I would not like that attitude to seep into our class today. The idea is that we need to look at what do the 8% do that they are able to achieve their goals, which the 92% can't do. Now, one of the reasons why the 92% fail is that they are following some set patterns. They are following certain established theories that this is how we should go about doing the goal setting. But the truth of the matter is that goal setting has changed over the years. It has been more scientifically analyzed. It has been broken down into parts that we can practice. And that is what we are going to do at the end of this exercise. So let me take you through that also. But before we go into that, I want to dispel two misconceptions about what goals are. One, we often think or we even evaluate people on the achievement of their goals. And we think that when a person gets a goal, that is the only measure of success. What we forget is that we are talking about a certain outcome. Now, the outcome is also greatly determined by the process that leads to the outcome. So to think in our minds that only when we come to the outcome, it is a measure of success, it also means that we will often ignore the process or the path that takes us to the goal. And the second misconception that we find in the minds of most people is that goals are connected with happiness. If you hit the bullseye, you are a success. Even if you miss the bullseye by a few inches or a few centimeters, you're no longer successful. And if you completely miss the board, then you're a terrible failure. We fail to understand that not all goals are achieved. Not all great people have achieved all the goals set for themselves. There's nothing wrong with the way that they set the goals. We have to understand between us and the goal, there are many factors that must be kept in mind. And without factoring in all those issues, it would be almost naive to imagine that every goal that we set is achievable. We want to move to that stage where every goal that we set becomes a reality. But we must also be realistic enough to understand that all goals are not achieved by all people. One last word is this: great leaders set goals for themselves and their followers. They become role models by the way that they set their goals and reach these goals. And more importantly, they are able to set up goals which are inspiring in nature, that people want to take up these goals. They want to own the goals that a leader has set for them. They don't see it as a leader's goals. They see it as goals that belong to them. So therefore, great leaders not only set goals, they personalize. They create a sort of a sense of belonging to the goals that they create. So that when the followers are asked to take up these goals, they don't see it as somebody else's goals. Now, as I speak, I'm sure you'll be able to draw parallels to the workplace that you are presently in. Sometimes the boss talks about a goal, and we think of that goal as alien, not my goal. Or sometimes we set goals for our subordinates, and we expect the subordinates to see the sense in that goal. And we fail. And that is why this is goal setting, not just goal setting, but goal setting for leaders. And I assume all of you are in leadership positions, and therefore this should suit your requirements. Why goals? Can't we live without goals? I mean, if you look at all cartoon characters, they're happy. Dennis the Menace is happy. Tarzan is happy. Or any of the Superman or super beings, they're all happy. Now, but unfortunately, we are realistic creatures. We live in this world. And for the world to make sense to us, we need goals. But let me give you some practical reasons why goals are absolutely essential. One, it helps us to focus on what is important. In other words, goals are the reasons why we prioritize. We look at things as essential, things that are important, things that are not important, things that can be put to the last place. How do we ever come to that prioritization? That prioritization is possible only when you have goals. When you have a meeting in the next 5 minutes and you have the agenda in your hands, you will focus on what is important for the meeting that is to happen in the next 5 minutes. Everything else is relegated to something else. When Arjuna was asked, can you see the tree? Can you see the parrot? And he said, I can see the eye of the parrot. That is the focus. That is the goal that we all strive for. Number two, it provides motivation. You see, we imagine that motivation is an unlimited concept, that people can have motivation for everything. No, motivation is also a limited energy. And that energy has to be channelized to do the right things and not waste it on something else. Take the example of students studying for exams. If you look at them, they keep on postponing it. Okay, I will start my studies at 8 o'clock. And then they'll say, I'll start my studies after lunch. And then they'll say, I just had my dinner, so let me start at 9. And then they say, 9 is a little bit too early. Let me start at 10. And it goes on. And finally, the amount of time that they actually spend on learning is very less. But if you were to take the case of a motivated student, they are very clear. And their goal is very simple. I will get the best marks possible. And that provides the motivation for them to sustain their activity of learning throughout a time period. Now, all of this might sound a little bit simplistic to you. Please hold on with me. Don't lose faith in this lecture. We are coming to the more important things shortly. It also gives a real sense of personal satisfaction upon achievement. We say, I want to buy my first car. Great, wonderful. And when that first car comes, even if it is only a second-hand car, or even if it is a used car, it doesn't matter. There's a personal satisfaction that I bought it with my money. This is my first possession that I dearly love. That is a goal that you set for yourself. And if you look at all of our lives, it is made up of this personal satisfaction. That is why we order a certain food in a restaurant. That is why we buy a certain colored dress. And that is why we do so many different things. Because the one important thing for us is that it gives us personal satisfaction. And the biggest source of personal satisfaction is setting goals that we can achieve and find satisfaction from it. It also gives us purpose. Each age period that we live in has different purposes. When you're very young, you're trying to find your identity, and then you want to prove your excellence. Then you take up on leadership roles. The same thing with our personal life. Once you're 50, 55 plus, our purpose changes. It is not the same that it was when we were 20 or 25. Why does the purpose change? The purpose changes because our goals change. With a changing goal, our purpose also changes. It tells us what is important at this age. At this age, we don't have to prove a point to anybody else. What is important now is satisfaction, a personal satisfaction that comes with the goals that we set for ourselves. It also helps us to develop the resilience to persist when the going gets tough. Nobody thinks life is going to be a bed of roses. Nobody imagines that we can achieve whatever we want without any impedance or disturbance. What keeps us going as we run, as the thorns prick our feet, is the fact that that goal, which is a little distance away, keeps telling us we have to put up with these short-term troubles because the goal is very near and we need to reach out for it. So all the bleeding, all the pain, all the short-term losses, we put up with it. We persist in our pursuit because we know the goal is worth it. And that is the reason why we are willing to take these short-term losses too. Targeting a goal encourages us to develop strategies and tactics to achieve our goal. Once we know this is what we want, we can break it down into parts, long-term, short-term. These are the resources that we require. And to acquire these resources or this network or the help of these people, we need to do this. Each day can then be broken down into a set of activities. Each week is a summation of our strategies. And then each month is an evaluation of how close we have moved to our particular goals. So therefore, there is a practicality as to why we should have goals. You know, we have this problem with our Indian, ethos, is that we have a lot of faith in God. If we were to talk to anybody, what are you going to do 10 years from now? Most of us would say, who knows? God is there. God will take care of it. Yes, the divine will power is going to take care of all of us. There's no question about it. But we should also remember that the goals are one which keeps us on the track. God is not going to come here to put us back on the track and move our engine. We need to do it ourselves for our own sakes and for the teams that we lead. Okay, so now what are the types of goals? Generally, when I put up this slide, most people say there are the short-term goals, the medium-term goals, and the long-term goals. That is one way of looking at it. But that is also the reason why we fail. Let's not look at goals like that. Let's look at goals as this. We need to look at the outcome, the end result. The end result is very, very important. But the end result is possible because of certain performance. If the performance does not happen, the outcome is not going to come through. Very simple. The outcome is dependent on the performance and a few other factors. But for that performance to happen, for example, coming first in class, that's a performance. There must be certain behaviors or there must be a certain strategy on how we are going to bring about this performance. Now, if you look at this, it becomes more logical. We often only focus on the outcome. I want to lose 5 kgs. Oh, wonderful. You want to lose 5 kgs. But what is the performance? What is the process of getting there? When that is forgotten, we have no roadmap on how we get to the outcome. That is the reason why 92% of all individual endeavors to achieve goals fail. That is an amazing wake-up call. Why 92% of the people fail is because they do not see the way in which the outcome is ensured. Again, I repeat, if you want a particular outcome, the performance must be a forerunner. And when the performance is to happen, you must have a strategy on how you're going to make this performance happen. I'm going to talk about this for some more time in the next few slides. The flow. The flow starts off with process goals. The process of procedural goals focus on behaviors. These are very specific and these are 100% controllable by individuals. Waking up at 5 o'clock, it is controllable. Walking 2 kilometers is controllable. Reading 20 pages, controllable. These are procedural goals and these focus on behaviors, on what must be actually done, not desired, not a vision, not a dream. These are actual behaviors that are spelled out in very clear terms. And if these behaviors do not occur, there is only one culprit. And that culprit is the individual himself or herself. Let's be clear on that. The process of procedural goals are the entire responsibility, 100% the responsibility of the individual. He or she cannot wash their hands off it and then still hope for the outcome. The outcome is never ever going to come if the process goals are not met. Then comes the second one, the performance goals. If you have done your process or procedural goals, which focuses on behaviors, if your behaviors are in place, and if you do the right behaviors, your performance goals are possible. They focus on certain standards, certain percentiles, certain benchmarks. And at this point, you must notice the slight change in the terminology. These are mostly controllable. Why are they mostly controllable? Because the standards are not standards that we set for ourselves. If only it was a personal task involving our own lives, we can set standards. But when we are competing with others, we suddenly find that the standards or the benchmarks have been raised. When do we find this? We find this even as we are performing. At that time, it should not come as a shock to us, because we have got to be realistic that when we started, these were the performance standards. But as we were doing it, the performance standards can be reset. That is the time that we may have to go back to step one and say, let me now check. This is the new standard that has been set for us. What new process must I follow so that I can meet these standards? Fine. Then comes the third stage, which is the outcome goals. They focus on the end results. All of us keep giving a lot of importance only to these end results, not realizing that these are not always within our control. You can make the best of the products, you can give the best of the services, but can we control what our competitors do? Can we control the legislations passed by the government? Can we control the business or economic cycles that our countries are going through? We can't, because these are all macro issues. So, does it mean that we should not focus on the outcome goals? No, that is not the conclusion that one can draw. Our outcome goals are still important to us. And that is why I want to remind you of the first two misconceptions that I talked about in the earlier slides. Don't imagine that hitting the target is the only happiness possible, or it is the only method of measuring your success. No, it does not happen. The process is as important as the outcome. And despite following the process, there is a possibility that sometimes the outcome that we desire is not always attained. But that is not because of our mistakes or our shortcomings. Those happen because of factors outside. Now, one word of caution. We cannot then very leisurely say, after all, at the end of the day, there are so many unknown variables. So let us not go through this process at all. No. The challenge still remains that we shall focus on the outcomes, but we shall also lay greater importance and significance to the performance goals as well as to the process or procedural goals. Because we know that at the end of the day, the outcome goal becomes even a possibility only if the first two steps are properly followed. Therefore, the whole process starts with the outcome goal, but must be translated. That's an important word. It must be translated, not only for your understanding, but for your entire team's understanding. It must be translated into standards and behaviors. Though they are very, very important, because until you do that, your team is not going to march with you. An example, because we need to understand what this means. Let's say an outcome goal is to be in the top 5 in a particular industry. That's an outcome goal. We know it can be a pharma industry, it can be a manufacturing industry, it can be anything you want. And you want to be in the top 5 in that particular industry. That's great. But how do you get there? 1, performance goals. Increase my sales by 25%, cut costs by 20%, zero productivity day lost. Now, if you look at all of them, they also include behavior. So don't get confused. They also include behavior. But the interesting part is that it talks about a particular standard. And that particular standard is also known as the performance goals that we set for ourselves. And I have only listed out something that we can easily understand. The performance goals can be more than this, a lot more than this. And finally, the process goal. Now, for example, I said increase sales by 25%. Strengthen my sales team numerically. I want more people out on the roads selling it, hard selling it, sales promotions. I need a sales team that can do it. So let me strengthen my sales team numerically. All non-vital activities to stop, to cut down my costs. All that is not essential, I'm going to drop it out. Incentivize attendance and productivity. If people, I'm going to say zero productivity day is lost, then I've got to make sure that people, when they come there, there's a reward waiting for them. This is an example of how you can work your way up to the top to be in the top 5. Of course, this is a very crude example. It is not as simple as this, but this is the path, the method of reaching the top. Now let's spend some time on these process goals or each of these breakups. A process goal is what you will have to actually do. Now, the goal is still something which is very far away from you and it is in the past. Now, to reach that, you must do something. There is the football and you need to score a goal. But the first thing that you will have to actually do is run towards the ball, try to kick the ball, or actually kick the ball. That is what we talk about as actually have to do to achieve a larger goal. Many people are totally incapable of talking about what they actually have to do. Now, there is a fundamental human failure here because sometimes people see the larger picture and they are unable to translate into smaller jigsaw puzzles. And then there is the other set of people who are able to see the nitty-gritty details, but they are unable to see the larger picture. Unfortunately, a leader is somebody who has to necessarily see the larger picture and the smaller details. And the smaller details, as they say, the devil is in the details, is what these process goals are about. These are about the details. They are very irritating, they are very time consuming, and believe me, they are very boring. When you put down the process goals into actual writing on the paper, you'll be amazed at the number of steps involved, the number of iterations involved, the number of logical flaws that will happen. And that is why you see, when you do this properly, the process goals give you control over what goes on. Right. For example, again, giving Some examples of what are process goals. Sending a specific number of proposals every week. You can set yourself a target that you will send 10 proposals, 4 proposals, 2 proposals. Each week, I will send them. You follow it up with prospective clients every day. I'm going to call up 10 clients today. I have shortlisted them and I'm going to do that. We are not talking about how many clients you're going to convert. That's a benchmark that comes next. But what will you actually do? You will call up 10 people. You will call up 20 people. It doesn't matter about the end result. The thing is that what will you actually do? Posting regularly on your social media channels. Again, we are not asking the question, how many people are going to read it? That's another problem. That's at another stage. But we will post regularly the content that is required. I will block my calendar to spend time with my family. Yes, this is also a process goal. Sometimes we get caught up with our work and start imagining the work is the reason for our livelihood or life itself. The truth is that not. It's a balance. And sometimes we neglect our families. You could still block your calendar and say 3 days in a month is meant for my family. No matter what comes, I won't do anything else. And then you will see the benchmark and then you will see the outcome of quality of life at home. Signing up to an online course. I will sign up for at least one online course every 6 months. Or all process goals that we find which are happening. Okay, fine. Let's move on to performance goals. Again, I repeat, some of the performance goals will look very similar to behaviors or procedural goals. That is because all performance goals also involves a certain amount of behavior. Performance goals are what employees work to achieve. They are based on the goals and priorities of an organization and are tied to specific job positions. So the performance goals of all the people at all levels in an organization will not be the same. The performance goals of a deputy manager may be very different from the performance goals of a senior manager. The performance goals of an assistant professor are going to be very different from the performance goals of a professor or a dean or a director. They focus on the job duties and productivity of an employee, and they are designed to integrate. This is the important word. They are designed to integrate an employee's achievement with the overall goals. So we know what is to be done, and this is the stage which explains why it is to be done. And when you do this properly, the overall goals of the company or the organization is easily achieved. Here are some performance goals. Be punctual at work, meetings, and events. Start a meeting on time, end a meeting on time. That's a performance goal. It means you're going to save precious time that is not wasted in unnecessary meetings. Take an initiative. Tell yourself, each month I will take one new initiative. Something that was not done in the past. I will do one new thing. Improve your work quality. It can be something like, I'm going to have 5 defects in a workload of 100 outputs. Or you can set yourself a 6 Sigma quality standard. Nobody is stopping you. Request feedback. And for God's sake, use it. Your performance standard cannot be imagined. Your performance standard is also to be enjoyed by others, to be utilized by others. So ask them, how was my work? Are you happy with it? Even when we go to a dentist, he fills up your teeth and afterwards he asks you, how are you feeling? It is not just about your health he is inquiring. He's also getting a feedback on the job that he has done, about how he filled up your teeth, how he has corrected your malady. He does that. Develop job knowledge and skills. You can tell yourself, okay, so far I know this language or this computer language or that one, but now I'm going to learn this new language. I'm going to learn this new methodology that's come up, or I'm going to learn this new internet issue that has come up. I'm going to learn something new. It's a performance goal that you can set. It's a standard. And each standard is slightly higher than the earlier standard that you had set for yourself. Support and advance your organization vision, mission, and values. Now, this is the link point. I want you to focus on this for a moment. So far, we have been talking about performance from an individual's viewpoint. But this is the point at which there is a verification, there is a validation that is done here. And every time we do something, like for example, be punctual at work, meeting, or event, find support for that against your organization's vision, mission, and values. Ask this question: by setting the standard, which part of the organization's vision or mission or value am I achieving? If there is no link, it means your performance goals are meaningless. You may have to rework your performance goals, because the final validation for a performance goal is to be seen in how are you meeting the vision, the mission, and the values of the organization. Every single act, whether it is process or performance goals that we set for yourselves, will find validation only when it meets the organizational vision, mission, and value. If it does not find support there, then there is no point in setting it. Don't get discouraged. Sometimes we do a number of activities because it was done in the past, because my boss asked me to do it, because this is the culture of my organization. We always do it like that. Whatever that we do, even if it is a small prayer that we say at the beginning of a day, ask yourself this prayer: how is it connected to the vision, mission, and values of my organization? How will it improve the performance standards that I've set for myself? If the answer is no, then you may even have to review all that is being done in the organization. Then, the outcome goals. The outcome goals is the reason why we are here at all. And these outcome goals is a singular goal that you are working towards. It can be anything: generation of wealth, becoming smarter, moving to the top of the organization. Now, interestingly, outcome goals are very often binary. What is binary? 0, 1. Either you hit it or you don't hit it. For example, wanting to win a gold medal. There can't be a second gold medal. There can be only one gold medal. Either you go get the gold medal or you're going to end up with the silver medal. Or wanting to be the largest company in your sector. Either you end up being the largest company in your sector or you end up being number 2 in the sector. Those are the only options possible. Now, whilst outcome goals are hugely motivating, they can inspire people, they can transform people into doing something extraordinary. They're willing to work 12 hours, 15 hours, 18 hours. They are willing to even cut their own salaries. They are willing to make sacrifices for the organization. But we have to understand that they are not under your control, as they are also affected by others, how others perform. The others can be your competitors. The others can be the external environmental factors. Governing agencies, statutory bodies can all make an impact on whether you're going to get your goal or not. Examples, very popular examples of outcome goals: become a market leader, set a sales record. Okay, all of that. So either you become a market leader or you become a market follower. That's all. Set a sales record. No, the sales record is either there or it is not there. Fine. Now, I want to repeat before I move into another segment of my class today, and we seem to be running short of time, is that when you want goals and you want to achieve these goals, the first thing I want you to recall in the lecture that I've given so far is that don't fall for the misconception of what is a goal. A goal is not a dream. It is not a vision. It is not anything else that you have imagined. The second thing that you need to realize about goals is that the achievement of the goals is not the only reason why you should be happy. or it is not the only measure of success. There is a process that needs to be followed for an outcome to be achieved. And the process is made up of two important goals. One of them is the procedural or process goals. And the second goal is the performance goals. And when these two are in place and you have done 100% justification to these two, then you can 100%, you are in a legitimate position to expect an outcome goal. I'm using the word expect an outcome goal. But even if the first two stages were 100% right, it is still not a guarantee that the outcome goal is going to come into you. But it gives you an opportunity, should you not get the outcome goal, to understand the scenario a little better and go back to your drawing board and work on your process and performance standards. So in the second iteration, at least, you will stand a better chance of getting your outcome goal. That is the reason why the 8% succeeded. And that is also the reason why 92% failed. And there is no secret about it. There is no shortcut about it. And there is nothing glamorous about it. And there is nothing mysterious about it. It is as simple as 1, 2, 3. Okay. But setting goals. So far we have been looking at the process of how do we go about doing it. And many of us have heard about this SMART goals. Probably we have ourselves taught about it. But it does not mean that we should not review it one more time to find out if these SMART goals can offer us anything more or less. So even if it is something that you have already done before, approach this subject with an open mind. Ask yourself, can I look at it with a different perspective? And that is the reason why I am forced to talk about SMART goals. Because I've done a number of exercises, even with top people, top executives. I've done numerous MDPs with their management development programs, in which I find that people know what is a SMART goal. They know the theoretical part of it. When asked to actually practice it, they fail miserably because they do not know the transition from the theory part into the real life. So bear with me for the next 5 minutes or so. Let me take you through these SMART goals one more time. These SMART goals are, as we all know, what the acronym stands for. They are specific, well-defined, clear, and unambiguous. They are measurable with specific criteria that measure your progress towards the accomplishment of the goal. They are achievable, they are realistic, they are timely. But I'm not going to spend time on this slide. That was only to explain what the SMART goal stands for. But I've got something far more important to share with you, because what I'm about to share is what our short exercise will be at the end of the day. Okay, so towards that, we are going to look at this one of explaining SMART goals. Let's start off with the first one of being specific. Now, we'll have to remember that goals that are specific have a significantly greater chance of being accomplished. When you say, I want a table for your home, now that's a very simple thing. But if you really want the table and you want to be happy with the table, there are 5 W's that you may have to ask. Who is involved in this goal? And you may find sometimes that your spouse is also involved in this. Or if you're not an earning member, then your dad or your mom is involved in this goal. That's an eye-opener. I want a table. But whether the table will become a reality or not will depend on this very important question of who is involved in this goal. What do I want to accomplish? What do I want this table for? I want to put a computer on it. I want to write on it. I want to put my important things on that. I want to put my lovely photographs on that. Fine. What do I want to accomplish? Where is this goal to be achieved? Where exactly am I going to use this? It can be in my living room. It can be in my bedroom. Now, each of them is going to alter the dimensions of your table. Because if it is going to be in the kitchen, it's going to be a different dimension. It's going to be a different type of a table. If it is going to be my bedroom, that's going to be a different table, different dimensions. Or if I'm going to put it in my living room, that's going to be a different dimension, different table altogether. Again, I'm giving very, very everyday examples because I want us to understand that why do we fail? I was deeply bothered when I looked at the 92% failure. But when I looked at it from this point, I find that yes, there is a justification why the 92 should fail. Because they are bored with the details. They don't want to be specific about what they want. When do I want to achieve this goal? How soon do I want it? Can I postpone it until next month? Or can I put it off until I have enough resources, money in my hands that will help me to get it? Then comes this emotional question. Why do I want to achieve this goal? Be truthful to yourself. Because I saw this in my cousin's home. Because I saw this in the exhibition. And I believe that if I have this, it'll make my life better. Or it'll make me more productive. Then let's measure it. A smart goal must have criteria for measuring progress. If there are no criteria, you will not be able to determine your progress. How many? Much that you want. 1, 2, 3. How do I know if I've reached my goal? Am I happy if I placed an order? Am I happy if something similar to that comes, but not exactly that? What is the indicator of progress? Joining an MBA program? Joining a PhD program? Is that an indicator of progress? What are the specific measures that are in place which will tell me not whether I've reached the final goal? It simply tells me I am on the right path to go there. Now, the more important things is what learning are we looking for that can be measured? That is an important learning outcome that we would like to find out. Especially, I find that a great number of people are from the academic field. And so, therefore, when you set goals, measurable goals, even for our students, we sometimes ask them, study well. Oh, yes, 3, 4 of them study very well. That's the top 10 percentile. Then there is the average. And then there is the rest of the group who don't care what we talk about. And we end up saying that, oh, they are not smart enough. Are they not smart enough, or have we not set the smart goals for them? So we do need to teach them about what is the indicator of progress, how many assignments submitted, how many quizzes taken, what marks have been scored, all of them. Then comes the achievable part. A smart goal must be achievable and attainable. Now, there is a small catch here in this achievable. This cannot be easily achievable because then the biggest crime is to set ourselves low standards. But it cannot be so tough that we can never ever reach it. But those are not the questions that we ask in a smart goal. We ask for this question is, do I have the resources and capabilities to achieve the goal? If not, what am I missing? I want to achieve something dramatic, tremendous. Let's say I want to top the IAS examination, the UPSC examination. Do I have the resources and capabilities? Can I read fast? Do I have access to library? Am I a part of a learning circle? If not, what am I missing? What are the 1, 2, 3 that I'm missing? Also, it helps in looking at who are the others who have achieved. What did they do differently? How did it make it? How was it possible for them? How have the others done it successfully before? Then I could borrow that roadmap to do this. Especially we live in a very disruptive time period in which, one of the biggest challenge for a teacher is to handle online classes, isn't it? And very often you don't even get to see the students. Big challenges. Even now, as I see it, I don't see too many faces here. I'm only talking to an imaginary audience. I'm told there are hundreds of people out there, but I don't do that. Well, how do I know? How do I set myself a standard? How do I get it there? All of these are contemporary issues. Let me not waste too much time because I am planning to spend some time with you on actually taking you through that exercise. Then a realistic. How realistic am I? A smart goal must be realistic in that the goal can be achieved given the resources. Now, there is a saying, there is a small management terminology which is used. It is called satisficing. Now, very often we fail because we try to satisfy, where the only requirement is satisficing and not satisfying. There is a huge difference between the two. So if we can satisfy, then take that satisfying experience and let us not focus on trying to satisfy. Finally, because I want to do that small exercise with you, I'm going a little bit fast here. Then it also needs to be timely. A goal makes sense only within that particular paradigm, within that particular time frame that we do that. If it is not time constraint, there is no sense of urgency. There is no requirement. Only if the journey is 1 hour and we have imagined it's going to be 1 hour, is there a goal at all? If it is not, then we don't need to do it. So, does my goal have a deadline? When does the deadline start? How do I know that the deadline has actually started? By when do you want to achieve your goal? We have also got to understand that contextualizing these SMART goals are very important to us. Now, I know you are smart people. I know you have done this, heard these sort of lectures hundreds of times before. And that is why I thought, instead of boring you with more and more of these lectures on these concepts, yes, the process, procedural, performance, and the outcome goals were very important. But how do we put these SMART goals into action? I've got 2 or 3 slides that I want to share with you. And I want you to work on these slides. I want you to work on this sincerely. Because you see, the beauty about a training is not in the training room. The beauty about a training, any training, is the training transference, which means how much of this training can I take back into my workplace? If the training is to be left only in the training room, it is only an interesting training. It was a useful one. You can use any number of words to describe it. But the beauty about training is to transfer it. And that is what I'm attempting to do here. It is a difficult task, but please do spend time with me. When I put up this slide there, should you have any questions on this, I want you to ask me. And I will take you through this step by step. Okay. Now let's say we have a SMART goal worksheet. The first thing that we need to do is to start off by today's date. Okay. Now, after that, don't go to the target date. Come down to the goal. Today's date, and then let's start with a goal. It can be anything. It can be any goal that you want. It can be a personal goal. It can be a departmental goal. It can be any goal that you want. Okay. Now, once you have set that goal, you can have a target date. The target date is when do you want it to be achieved? When do you want it to be completed? You can use this template. After all, these slides are with you and you can work on it. But the most important thing is there is a start date. The start date need not necessarily be today's date. I'll tell you why it need not be today's date. Because when you write the goal, you will suddenly realize that there are some resources that are not already in your hand. And unless these resources are available to you, you cannot actually start. And for that reason, the today's date need not be the start date. But what is the reason for today's date? Is that the goal was conceived today. This is the day on which we decided this is what we wanted. And the date achieved can be the last thing that you do when you actually have done it. Now we have to verify whether our goal is smart. So here is a small exercise that I want you to work on. I know you have access to pen, paper, pencil, whatever that you have. Please do not imagine that this is something that you can do tomorrow. Humor me. As you do this, you will realize what exactly were we talking about. Set yourself a goal. In fact, I would recommend that you set yourself a simple goal. A simple goal, at least for the sake of this exercise. And later on, you can set yourself more lofty goals. You can set yourself more complex goals. All of that will come a little later. But for the moment, set yourself a simple goal. A goal that you understand that you urgently need. Okay, I'll give you a minute on that. Okay, we will go into the smart part of it. The first thing is, what exactly will you accomplish? It cannot be in vague terms. It has to be a very specific answer. What exactly will you accomplish? For example, let us say I say that I want this lecture to be well received. That's my goal. That's my goal. To make my lecture today, which is the outcome, I want it to be successful. Specifically, what exactly will you accomplish? One example I can give you is that I will tell you that 80% of the people who heard my lecture must say the lecture was above average or good. Anything less than that is not okay with me. Okay, that's a specific outcome. Now let's measure it. How will you know when you have reached this goal? I will know this when I get the feedback. And I will look at the scores given. There I will know whether this is actually done or not. Is achieving this goal realistic with effort and commitment? Have you got the resources to achieve this goal? Again, coming back to my example. Yes, with effort and commitment, it is possible. I have done it in the past. I have worked on various training programs. Have you got the resources to achieve this goal? Yes, the resources are before me. If not, how will you get them? That part does not concern me now. I have all that is required to get this thing done. But in your cases, the answer could be different. You may want access to a library, an online resource, finance. All of those are important questions. So let's go to the next one. Why is this goal significant to your life? To different people, significance means different things. To some people, this particular performance or achievement of this particular goal could give them an elevation, could give them a recognition, could give them an accreditation, would give them a standing among their peers, or could take them into the next level. So why is this goal significant to your life? And when will you achieve this goal? What is the time period that you have assigned for yourself? Ask yourself this question. I am referring to your case. Don't get confused or distracted by my examples. My examples are mine own. I want you to do this exercise. When will you achieve this goal? How soon? Is that realistic? By that time period, will the relevance of the goal still remain? There are only two more questions left to be answered. This goal is important because this is the emotional part. Every goal is also loaded with emotion. So this question asks this question. Raises this important issue. This goal is important because of this particular reason. And then we also look at the consequences of achieving this goal. The benefits of achieving this goal will be: one, personally for me; number two, the other stakeholders involved in the process; and finally, the most important one, what will this goal achievement be in terms of achieving the vision, mission, and values of the organization that I work for. Don't underestimate this last question. This last question is the one which will validate whatever work that you have done in the past. Okay. Now, if you are able to do this, there is only one more important part of the exercise that remains to be done. Take action. Now you have looked at the goal carefully, and you will find two things emerging. One, you will find that there are a set of potential obstacles. It could be another senior, it could be another peer in the organization that you work for. There are also potential solutions that will present themselves to you. New networks, new resources are all potential solutions. New working environments that can be created. Again, whenever you work through these SMART goals, both of them will emerge. I am not saying that they will be equal. Sometimes you will find that the potential obstacles are longer than the potential solutions possible. When you hit these obstacles, or sometimes you also find the solutions, you know that these are not with you. The answers are not with you. You may have to ask for the help of others. Start off preliminary. Who are the people you will ask to help you? At this stage, you may not know the name of the person. You may not know exactly where they are located. It does not matter. It simply says that there will be other people whose help you will have to take for you to achieve this. First, list it down. In the second iteration, you may start looking out for the exact people who will fit your description. And as you take action, you may find that the people that you thought who will help you out, you will find that they are no longer any use to you. Then comes the final part before we conclude. The final part is this: what steps need to be taken to get you to your goal? These are the process goals. What should you do? Do not have 20 or 25 steps. Start with only 4 or 5. What steps? I shall ask for an appointment of this person. I shall visit this library. I shall become a member of this club. I shall join this organization. Is the set of steps that you will have to talk about. Then comes the expected completion date. When do you expect this to be over? Some of these activities are simple, and you must remember, I'm going back to my original theory, that these process goals are 100% controllable and only you are in charge of it. So you can always say the expected completion date is 2 days or 3 days. And if you don't complete it in 2 or 3 days, you also know that you were responsible why it was not completed on that day. Either you are unrealistic or you didn't give your 100% to it. Go back and work on this. And finally, the date on which you complete it will also tell you how serious you were about taking this whole exercise of goal setting for yourself as a leader, for your organization. Hopefully, I have covered some of the important points that were required. So on that note, I would like to thank you all for having given me this opportunity. I'm sure at some points that I have rushed through this, but fine. Knowing the intelligence level of the followers, I had to assume that certain things would be better understood by you. So on that note, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So there are questions in the chat also.
Yeah, I'm going to it. I'm going to it now. I'm going to it now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, there is one question by Dr. Renu Yadav. What kind of smart goals can be set for better learning outcomes in higher education, especially for girls in STEM? I think it's a very relevant and down to earth question. Now, what we need to understand is, why are these girls seeking higher education? That's the starting point. Before we start setting smart goals for them, we'll have to first understand what is the reason why these girls are seeking higher education. Now, an understanding of that purpose for which this education is sought, we can obviously set smart goals for them. So that particular question must be answered first before we can set smart goals for them. The smart goals are quite easy. If you know the purpose, the smart goals are easy. Specific. For example, you can tell them, you take up this course and study that. Or you can tell them measurable. You must get at least a master's degree in that. Or you can ask them achievable. Yes, girls from your area have done that. But first, you must join a college. Achievable. Or you can tell them it is realistic. If you can only improve on your English skills a little bit, you can do that. Timely. If you are going to make opportunity, the use of these government openings in top government organizations, you'll have to complete it within the next 2 to 3 years. All of that is possible, but I would like to focus on rather on the reason for the higher education purpose for which these girls come there. So that, I think, is the starting point. Another question has been raised by, what process needs to be adopted to measure a goal in disruptive times? Yeah, that is an amazing thing. The problem with the disruptive time is that whatever that we set for ourselves, even in a 1 year time ago, seems to be very unrealistic now. Now, therefore, it does not mean that we shall wait for these disruptive times to be over. And only when this is over, we shall start setting goals. We do not have that luxury at all. So for that reason, I would suggest that the process needs to be, the one process that needs to be adopted to measure a goal must be in short term. Let us not look at the general short term. In management terms, a short term is between 1 to 3 years. But in a disruptive time period, probably a short term can be 1 to 2 months or 2 to 3 months. And based on that, we could work out a strategy on how we go about setting goals. So that, I think, is one of those questions that needs to be asked. But honestly speaking, some of these questions are very, very relevant, and I do not want to appear as to being very intelligent that I know the answers to many of these. I have to humbly admit that I do not know the answers to many of these questions. That there is a lot more that we need to apply our mind to. And these disruptive time periods that we live in have really challenged some of the greatest minds around the world, and we are still struggling with it. But a good question is the starting of acquiring knowledge. All of acquiring knowledge starts with one intelligent question. So I thank the people who have put this up. The goal setting process in organization must be by a group or by a leader. It must be in a group by a leader. Must be in a group by a leader. There is enough literature support for that. So that is where it stands. Thank you for your wonderful feedback. I know you have to come back at 2 o'clock for your next session. So let me thank Professor Tamarai Chelvan and others. Thank you very much.
Sir, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable
and wonderful session, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
And we
Jagat.
will look
Thank you
forward to
very much.
one more session in a day or two. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I
I
request all
request
the
participants to take a
Yeah, go ahead, Jagat. Sorry.
I request participants to take a short lunch break and join in the next session at 2 o'clock. Sharp 2 o'clock.
Sir, Dr. Kirti, I will request that please share the material after every day session. So it will be easiest to just revise, because if you will send after the completion of the program, then it will be difficult
Actually, no. Let me tell you that actually there is an Atal portal. We are expected to upload our videos and video link in the YouTube, and those things will be shared in the Atal portal, and even our PPTs will be shared in the Atal portal. So you are expected to come through that, and if you're not able to get anything from there, you just let us come back to us so that we will provide the YouTube link and couple of other things. Everything is getting
Okay. No, I
recorded,
was just
and you will get
thinking
everything.
about not about video. I was thinking only about the sharing of material of PPTs, so that for
Everything is
exams
there,
and
sir.
other
Everything.
thing. Yeah.
That's what. Once you get record everything, and everything will be there. And apart from that, we will share the PPT through the WhatsApp group.
Okay. Okay. No problem. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.